I'm going to be sharing with you in this video what health actually is. And I'm only going to be sharing in this video what I believe to be what health is from my personal experience and my personal opinion. Because I feel like this is important knowledge that a lot of people just aren't really talking about. They just won't really talk about it. Not because they don't really want to tell you, not because necessarily that they are hiding something from you, but I think that a lot of people are just simply I don't know how else to say it, but I feel like they're kind of ignorant, and I know how that sounds. It's like, I don't want to say it in any way that like puts anybody down or maybe has some kind of like negative demeanor behind it, but I want to share with you something that I personally come to find in my personal experience, that I believe very powerfully in my personal experience. And I'm going to be sharing with you in this video exactly what that is, so that perhaps this can benefit you in some way and help you to really ground into the person that you actually prefer to be. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that notification bell. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, all the details for that will be down below. Now, I want to share with you something that a lot of people don't really understand, in my personal opinion, and I want to go really in depth on this, which is that actually, what is even health? What is even health? Health is a state of being. That's what health is. Health is when your consciousness is in a particular state of being. See, I'm going to go a little bit deeper in terms of what I mean by that in a moment here, but if you're in a state of being that involves lots of pain, lots of misery, lots of resistance, is that really health? I would say that personally, if your day consists of all this kind of like negativity and you're inflicting some, like you're in a lot of pain, there's a lot of pain and resistance, I feel like in my experience, that's not actually health. That's not healthy. There's nothing healthy about feeling consistent negativity and pain and resistance. I don't believe personally that there's anything really healthy about that. So I'm not saying that perhaps sometimes there can't be negative situations that come up in your life. I'm not saying that there can't be sometimes negative feelings and all these things coming up in your experience. But oftentimes though, we can get lost in these emotions, in these states. And then it's really funny because I want to make sure that I communicate this properly. It's almost like we're in an unhealthy state and we try to become healthy within the unhealthy state when we're already kind of like entangled inside of like this unhealthy state of being. And so rather than bringing the consciousness inwards and then kind of like focusing on your state, and it's like, it sounds kind of crazy to some people to say it in that way, but personally I think that it's the opposite. It's the opposite of what we've been conditioned to believe, because everything ultimately in consciousness is just a state. It's a state. So you can either be in a whole balance, and I'm going to get to balance in a second here, balanced and connected state, like where you're connected to your source, you could say. But I know that sounds a little bit airy-fairy, so I'm going to go a little bit deeper, specifically what I mean by that. But it's almost like when we're entangled inside this state, it's like you can't fix that unhealthy state from the unhealthy state. You got to like pull yourself back. Does that make sense? You almost got to like pull yourself out of that state, pull yourself out of that kind of reality, pull yourself out of that, and then it's like, oh yeah. And you start to remember that is, in my personal experience and in my opinion, my humble opinion, is that is true health. And it's also, you could argue that it's also true wealth. Now, what I want to share with you in the second part of this video is that also what health actually is actually balance. It's balance. It's a balance of both the masculine and the feminine energy. So it's a balance of both of these kind of polarities that can that do, and that I was going to say can, but do exist. Right? It's a balancing act. So when you're in balance, you could say that is health. You could say that is health, right? And maybe you just, let me give you an example. So let's just say you just got over something really, really bad. Maybe some kind of illness, maybe something really negative, right? And so if you're in balance, maybe in that moment, you're not perfectly, or I don't want to say perfect, but you're not exactly the kind of person that you want to be. But if you're in harmony, if you're in balance, if you're in alignment, you are healthy in that moment. You are in alignment with becoming the person that you want to be. That in my personal opinion and in my experience, that is health. That is like being in a state of balance is health. Sometimes the body, it can take the body and the physical body a little bit of time to catch up, right? So I'm not saying that, a good manifestation of health is not, you can't not, which means that you can see it usually in somebody's state. You can see, like when somebody's like sort of glowing almost, you can kind of see, I believe, that like they're in a state of health. You can see there's a glow to them. There's an essence to them. But I just want to, not necessarily, it's not always, because you could be technically in a state of balance, but maybe the body doesn't show it yet. So that's why I don't want to be too specific here, because it's completely individual to each person and it can vary. It can vary, right? It's not just a very simple black and white topic. It can vary from situation to situation and from moment to moment, right? It all depends, right? But that's in my experience what it is to be in a state of balance, to be in a state of wholeness, to be in a state of connection to who you truly are. You can sense, it's like a sixth sense. You feel healthy. You feel connected. You feel like you're being in alignment. You feel like you're moving forward. You feel like you're connected to who you want to be. You feel in ease. You feel in alignment. You feel ease. Ease is health, I believe. I believe ease is health. That's what I think. That's just been my experience personally. That when you're in ease, when you're in flow, when you're in balance, that is what I believe to be health. So the final thing that I want to share with you is that if you really want to be healthy, in my experience, it's about harmony of the heart and the mind. It's harmony. See, you can see the mind. I feel like the mind has like a bad rep in the spiritual communities, right? It's like the mind is this bad thing. Like you should not use the mind. You should not use your mind in any way. And it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with the mind. The mind is not a bad thing. Okay, the mind is not a bad thing. If the question is, are you using your mind, or is your mind using you? That's the real question, right? It's like, see, there's in my experience, there's this intelligence that we all have within us, and you could say that it's the heart. You could say that it's the heart. The heart is just it's almost like your source. It's the heart. It's your true connection. It's your source. It's your connectedness. It's that essence of who you are. And you could say that heart can be in harmony with the mind. It can be in harmony with the mind. So the mind, I feel like, has this negative rep. It's like, oh, the mind is, just shut off the mind. Don't use the mind. It's like, no, the mind, there's nothing wrong with the mind. The mind never did anything wrong. The mind was never a bad thing. It's just that at some point, I think, in just my belief, and this is what I believe, in human civilization, we've kind of like, we got pulled towards the mind so much that what happened is, like, we forgot ourselves. We forgot ourselves. We forgot who we truly are. We forgot the heart. We forgot, it's like we imbalanced the mind and the heart. And then, so of course, in my experience, this manifests as all sorts of issues, right? The specifics are, I don't feel I need to say the specifics, because it's just, let's just say that it manifests as, you could say, an unhealthy state. It's a very chaotic and frantic kind of energy. It's a very chaotic and frantic kind of energy. And so in my experience, I think that when you balance the heart and the mind, when you balance these two forces, what happens is that then you start to get a real experience of what it means to be in health, to be in a state of health. And I think that this is achievable for any person. It's just about remembering your source, first of all, and aligning with that. But then also saying that, you know what, the mind is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's something that you can use responsibly, consciously, and wisely, to the point where you are in control of that situation versus the mind kind of pulling you for this, how do I say it? It's almost like a roller coaster ride. I think it's, oh my god, it's like almost like a roller coaster ride. But you don't need to be at the grips of it, right? You can consciously and wisely control it. Okay, and so I'm gonna conclude the video there. That's what I believe true health actually is. And I think that that's just my opinion and in my experience. So I truly hope that this video was valuable for you. Once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, all the details for that will be down below. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next